Welcome to another episode of Building Prosperity with Commercial Real Estate. I'm your host, Gary Tsungu, and today we have Aaron Trevino on the show. Aaron, how you doing?
Doing well, Gary. How about yourself?
Can't complain. Glad to have you on the show. It's we've been going back and forth for a while for the past few months, and we haven't been able to actually hunker down and get to chatting. But you've been. It looks like you've been very busy on your end closing deals. I've noticed that you've had a couple of posts about closing deals in Texas. But before we jump into that, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. It's definitely great to see and great to connect with you. I guess for those of y'all who don't know me, my name is Aaron Trevino. I live here in Austin, Texas. A bit about my background. I was born in Corpus Christi, so that's 2 hours south of San Antonio. And then if you're not familiar with San Antonio, maybe 3 hours south of Houston on the Gulf Coast. So I've been in Texas for my entire life, and it's been great. I've always had an interest in real estate, and I guess here I am.
So you've been there your entire life. You definitely must have seen a lot of changes happening from the time that you were a kid to all the way up to this point. And I'm not even talking about the impact that COVID has had on the market. But out of curiosity, are you sort of kind of kicking yourself or wishing that you had kind of gotten into real estate a little bit earlier since you've been noticing the market expand and grow?
Yeah, of course. I guess anyone can say that, regardless of how old you are. I mean, you could be in your 50s or in your 20s, and you could say that. Especially now with the social media culture, right? If you're a young guy and you think you're doing okay, and then you see a guy that's 18 years old and he's making $1 million a year in real estate, right? So.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wish that you should have started sooner and you should have kind of gotten mentors sooner. But we could probably have an entire episode on just that alone, on that topic alone. But okay, so you've been there your entire life. What were you doing? Obviously you're in real estate now. We're financing development deals, development projects. What were you doing before you got into real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'll probably just revert back to me growing up. So I grew up in Corpus Christi, lived there 18 years, I guess, really until college. And then I went to University of Texas at Austin. I kind of grew up in the UT family. I guess from the day I was born, there was nowhere else to go, right? I always knew I wanted to go there. So I was there for 4 years. I guess periodically I'd come up for football games, UT football games. I always knew I wanted to go to school there over the years. And just fast forward, I fell in love with the city. I love the city of Austin, everything that really Central Texas has to offer. It's a wonderful place. And I guess during my time in college, I did apartment locating. So when I was 20, I got a real estate license. So I would basically help my friends and my clients, find homes or find apartments to live in. So that was kind of my introduction, getting my feet wet in the industry, doing the apartment locating. And then, I guess, I'm also a realtor as well. And my senior year in college, I got an internship working for a construction lender. And I just, fast forward, here I am.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it sounds like you were in real estate almost as early as you could kind of get into real estate, right? Because a lot of people don't know if they're going to be pursuing their passion, or they're going to be pursuing something that they were studying in high school, for example, what they were kind of learning in high school, the passion that they had developed in high school. And a lot of people, by the time they get to college, even then, they change their mind. They sort of switch gears and change their degree or change their program. So what did you study in university?
Yeah, great question. So I studied communication and business. And then I also minored in energy. So I guess that would be considered like an oil and gas program.
Okay, that's interesting. So why not oil and gas? I mean, it makes sense in Texas you would be pursuing oil and gas, but why didn't you pursue one, but you decided to stick with the other?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I guess a bit about the program I did. It was, I guess, at least back in the 80s, UT had a program. It was called the Petroleum Landman Program. So that went away for, I guess, nearly 20 years, whatever it was. They rectified the program, and now it's called the Energy Management Program. So I completed the program in the summer of 2015. So that was, when we started seeing changes in the market, right? So that was, issues with Venezuela, issues with Saudi Arabia, OPEC, the global market had changed. And I, wanted to work in real estate instead.
Okay. Okay. Well, it sounds like you made the right choice, kind of looking at it in hindsight. And regarding the apartment locating, what does that mean exactly? Were you helping friends find apartments near the college campus, or were you sort of helping them find apartments after they had graduated college? Was this something that you were doing with your license or before you got your license?
Sure. So this was everything that I was doing after I got my license, right? So once I was licensed, I signed on with a brokerage. We had some training, and I was kind of getting acclimated to, the different markets in the city. But really, Austin is a state capital, right? So it's not, I guess it was a little sleepy college town, but for the most part, it is the state capital, and kind of in the central area is the university. So they have what's called West Campus, which is basically just a big neighborhood where students live. And that's mostly where I would do the apartment locating.
And then, so once you got your real estate license, how long were you a realtor for?
Yeah, absolutely. So at least in college, junior, senior years, so 2 years in college, and I'm still a realtor now.
Okay.
So I guess long story short, 2 years in college, I was overseas for a little bit, about a year and a half. Eventually came home. So I guess maybe in total, been a realtor for 3 years.
Okay, awesome. Were you overseas buying property or just kind of vacationing?
No. So I went overseas originally. I taught English in Vietnam. So
Oh,
yeah, so that was
that's
that
awesome.
was a neat experience, just kind of getting to, go to Asia, go to the East, which I'd never seen before prior to a few
Mhm.
years ago. So it was a great experience. I lived in Latin America for a little bit, and I found my way home.
That's awesome. Okay, so you came back. You sort of took a little sabbatical during your early years to your career, which is awesome. You definitely need that break, especially after college. So then you come back, and do you continue doing real estate? Do you continue selling homes, buying homes, and selling homes, or do you sort of start thinking, hey, you know what, I might actually want to get into the financing side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess as mentioned, back when I was in college, I had interned for this company that I'm currently working for. So I kind of had a little bit, of an idea about a bit about real estate or a bit about construction. I guess pretty surface level, but it was
Mhm.
kind of neat to be around people who were doing deals. And then I guess, I was overseas, and I was on LinkedIn looking for work, right when I came back. One of the account managers in my current company sent me a message on LinkedIn and said, hey, we're hiring for this position. Are you interested? Fast forward, and I'm here in this role.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing. What were some of the first deals that you were coming across?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess a bit about what we do. I'm a construction lender, so
Hmm.
I'll help finance new construction deals. Single family homes, condos, duplexes, townhomes. We'll do quadplexes, whatever it may be. We'll do flips, and then also development deals as well. But yeah, that's a bit about what we can do, and we service all the Texas markets. Houston, Dallas Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, and then we'll also do smaller markets in between as long as it makes sense.
Okay. Now, now you have experience with various markets across Texas. How are you viewing certain markets? Are you seeing some being a little bit more volatile than others? I know that Houston is heavily dependent on workforce housing and compared to Austin. And so, do you see one market being a little bit more volatile than the other? And hopefully, you giving your opinion is not going to impact anything or any investors listening on whether or not they should invest in certain markets. But do you see a certain market more volatile and compared to another market being a little bit more attractive?
Sure. It's really hard to tell, right? I guess
Hmm.
really any market, whether it's a good or bad market, it's hot or cold, you have pros and cons for every market, right? So at least where I live in Austin, it's pretty hot. It's one of the hottest, if not the hottest real estate market in America.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
have a lot of people moving here every single day. And then a lot of that is trickling down I-35, which connects Houston, San Antonio. So a lot of that little corridor between Austin and San Antonio is growing. And I guess an issue that people are having with Austin is that the prices are getting higher. Some people get pushed out. Maybe they're looking for more space. Maybe they're starting a family. They want to live in maybe a smaller environment, and maybe they'll go further south, maybe towards San Antonio. In terms of a market being volatile, I wouldn't exactly use the word volatile, but I'll use Houston as an example. A lot of workforce housing, which is great. I mean, if you own rentals, it's a great rental market. Really much like any major Texas metro is a great. There are a lot of great rental markets here, but at least with Houston, a lot of the economy is contingent upon energy, oil and gas.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you can kind of see at times there's kind of a connection between the real estate market and the energy market as well.
So you're sort of open to all the markets because each single market is being impacted one way or another. On the development side of things, how has the development finance or the construction financing been in certain areas like Austin and Houston? Have you guys been conservative or liberal when it comes to financing new development?
I wouldn't just say it's only for development, but really any deal, for the most part as a lender, you're going to take a conservative approach, right? Because your loan amount is contingent upon the appraisal coming back, right? So, that appraisal amount is going to determine, more or less what the loan amount will be. But in terms of pricing, at least for me as a lender, our pricing is based on credit and experience. So as long as you're over 600 credit, you qualify. 700 plus credit, would be ideal. And then experience, if it's your first time building, we'd like you to have a builder contract with an experienced builder who can show HUDs, basically verifying, hey, I've done this sort of work.
Mhm.
Or, if it's an experienced developer, just want to see a resume. So that would be all.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. And it's a crucial sort of strategy to kind of to implement and to utilize when you're just starting off, which is sort of joint venturing with a builder. You may be making less on the spread, or you might have to give up some equity to get the project off the ground. But it's what's going to satisfy the lender, and it's going to sort of guarantee the successful financing. When you have, I guess, ambitious developers or investors that have a property and they say, hey, you know what, we could actually build on this piece of property. We could tear it down and build on it, convert one property and title it to be a row of townhouses, for example. Are you sort of working as an advisor as well? Like, are you kind of telling them, hey, listen, you can kind of partner up with somebody in order to get this across the finish line? Are you expecting them to kind of have that already done?
Sure. I mean, I really think, with anything, it's just about kind of setting the expectations, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
as mentioned, if they have building experience and they can show proof through HUDs or previous deals and their credit's pretty good, they could guarantee the loan themselves. Whereas, maybe if it's their first time or if they have lower credit, we'd probably ask they have a builder contract. But either way, there's kind of different ways to skin a cat and make it happen.
Mm-hmm. In regards to the development happening in Texas, where are you seeing the most activity happening right now?
Really all over, right? So
Mhm.
all the major Texas metros, Houston is having a lot of growth. Dallas Fort Worth is having a lot of growth. Definitely Austin for certain. San Antonio. I guess I could probably just start with Austin, right? So Austin, I guess I wasn't even born yet, and I have I have a few memories of what Austin was maybe in the early 2000s, but Austin was a little sleepy college town, right? So it was it's a state capital. It used to be a little sleepy college town, and over time, to where we are now in 2021, it's really exploded into kind of a new tech hub, especially because Tesla's here. Tesla's in the southeast, so
Mhm.
I'm kind of seeing that there's going to be a lot of growth towards Tesla in the southeast as well. Northeast Austin as well, kind of near Manor, which is a smaller city in kind of the northeast little pocket. And there's a lot of other little pockets around Austin as well. You kind of have the West, which is, I guess, what you would call Westlake, right? You have a lot of the water is, in the western part. And then the South is more flat, kind of rural areas like Buda, Kyle. Really Austin is growing in every single direction. It's just moving out.
Now, regarding Tesla, I'm glad that you brought that up. How is that impacting financing? Are you seeing Tesla and people are getting excited? They're seeing the demand, and is that sort of providing a little bit more comfort underwriting the deals?
Yes and no. So yes, in the sense that, Tesla coming is basically showing, hey, we have a lot of this open land that needs to be developed to accommodate all of these people who seem to be here, right? So clearly the demand is there, and really all over Texas, at least for the next 20 years, we're projected to have, pretty consistent growth with the amount of people they're projecting to continue coming here to live. But to answer your question, in terms of Tesla, making us more lenient, it wouldn't change our underwriting processes or the way we would operate. But, it's definitely a true testament to people believing in the city and the amount of growth that's expected here.
Now, what kind of construction are you typically seeing, or are investors typically applying for? Like, what kind of asset class? Is it single family? Is it townhouses? I know you mentioned a few of them, but what are you seeing more? Are you seeing more of one than the other?
Sure. So, in terms of, I guess, my bread and butter would be, a 3-bed, 2-bath, maybe 1,400 square feet. That would be a pretty simple single family, new construction build, mostly here in Central Texas. There's a lot of pretty hot areas. I mean, there's Canyon Lake, there's Horseshoe Bay, there's, different parts of Houston, Lake Houston, Humble as well. I mean, really all over the state. But yeah, I mean, those are probably the single family homes. People are also building duplexes as well. And then I guess in terms of larger developments, I financed a deal that will be 48 units. It'll be a luxury waterfront condo.
Okay,
So
nice.
that'll be nice. So it's kind of, two ends of the spectrum, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Now, this is sort of a question that's constantly lingering in my head, but it had a massive impact, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of never having to ask it again, or having to ask it down the road. But how did COVID have an impact in your industry, as well as the markets that you service?
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. That's a terrific question. If we were having this conversation 12 months ago, things were a whole lot different, right? At least for us, it kind of seemed like around, maybe St. Patrick's Day-ish, right? Maybe March 17th, middle of March of 2020. That was kind of when things shifted. People were afraid. People didn't know what to make of what would happen in the market, not only from a health perspective, but also how this would impact the real estate market, right? So things changed on Wall Street. You're dealing with maybe money coming from different parts of the country, or maybe people are, moving here to Texas, and then that just kind of is at a standstill for a few months, seemingly, right? I mean, people still moved here, but it kind of seemed like there was a bit of uncertainty for the market. But in terms of, I guess, the construction lending market kind of picking up more steam, it kind of seemed like we started picking up more steam probably around June or July.
Okay, and have you seen any tapering off happening?
I mean, probably the only tapering off that I kind of noticed would maybe be March, April, May. That was kind of when there was a lot of uncertainty. I mean, there still sort of is, but I would say March, April, May were probably the most uncertain times. And then, as we kind of approached the fall, maybe winter time, things got a bit more stable. And then I guess fast forward now, and it kind of seems like we're really picking up more steam here in the Texas market.
Right. Okay. Now I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I am going to ask you, where do you see where do you see Austin heading towards?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I had a clear answer on that, Gary, And it's funny because I guess at least for me, in 2008, I was playing football, right? I was I was in high school. I wasn't concerned about the world economy. So I really can't lean back on 2008. And even if I did experience 2008, it's an entirely different animal.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like comparing apples to oranges here. But in terms of, the growth that Texas will experience, I foresee, a lot of people to continue moving here. A lot of industry is coming here. We have Google, we have Tesla, we have all sorts of companies and, just young, hungry people that are looking to make an impact. A lot of families are moving here as well. So you have just a big mix of people. And I think it's going to be great for the city of Austin.
Yeah, without a doubt, I'm sort of kind of entertaining coming to visit Austin because everybody's sort of moving to Austin. Everybody's moving to Texas. I know you guys had a huge exodus due to everybody moving and migrating from Los Angeles or California in general. And depending on who you talk to, whether it's whether you watch Joe Rogan or whether you watch anybody else that was sort of had their entire business, not just company, but had their entire life in California, you get mixed messages but for the majority, it's sort of like, I love it here. Like this isn't all that bad. I can kind of get used to this, and it's nice to hear. It's definitely nice to hear, and so it's kind of making me want to get in the Texas bug. Just like everybody else, because with Canadians, we have a cottage for the winters as well as the summers, where we spend our long weekends there, or we're snowbirds. We'll have a place in Florida, but Texas is sounding a lot more attractive, and it's definitely there's definitely competition between the two. So okay,
Definitely.
it's definitely keeping you busy all around. So moving forward, I mean, you've gotten here, and this is sort of like, if I had asked you 5 years ago, where would you see yourself? You'd probably say you see yourself right where you are today, and good on you. You kind of had a goal in mind, and you went for it, and even took a little hiatus, might I add, in Southeast Asia. But then I guess 5 years from now, where are you seeing it on? I don't want to get you in trouble at your current place, but it's like, is it Trevino financing? Is it sort of like your own firm, or are you gonna continue? You're gonna continue with the construction financing and kind of get into development. So where are you seeing that going?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess like anything, I don't like to, count my chickens before they hatch, or, whatever they say, right? But, I definitely do like real estate. I definitely do like the construction aspect of it. So in 5 years, I definitely do see myself working in this space in some sort of capacity in the kind of the construction real estate world. But, I really just kind of, just enjoyed learning and, doing podcasts like this and connecting with great people like yourself. And you kind of take little tidbits and kind of try to formulate your opinions. So the sky's the limit in 5 years.
No, absolutely. That's sort of one of the best answers that I've heard, because I get asked that all the time. It's like, hey, what are your plans? What's your next plan? Because eventually, once you sort of with real estate developments, it's kind of the same thing, right? You're doing the same thing. You're developing. You might entitle, and it's exciting because you're taking nothing and turning into something, and that's really the exciting part, right? And I kind of got that passion from a very young age, because I used to go to work with my dad, and when he had first started his business, it was primarily kitchens, and so we did a lot of kitchens and cabinetry. But I remember there was a point where we were putting these kitchens together in the garage, and it's literally like just sheets of wood, sheets of plywood, screwing them together, but at the end, it becomes a centerpiece of the home. And everybody knows when you walk inside a house, there better be a nice kitchen. It doesn't matter really what your tiles are or what the hardwood is. If that kitchen isn't, top notch, and if your partner isn't really happy with it, don't have the kitchen of their dreams, it's sort of the first thing that's going to come down, and it's going to be during the renovations, and it's the first thing that's going to get upgraded. But that's the thing with development. Once you sort of build something, it's like, okay, what's next? And you continue to scale up, and you continue to scale up. And so people kind of ask me, it's like, hey, what's the next thing? It's like, another development. I just like this. This is what I enjoy. This is what my passion is. So it's a really hard question to answer, but you nailed it.
Yeah, no, and it's super interesting as well, because those the producers, right, the developers, the people that are creating not only physical assets but also digital assets, those people are going to be rewarded in this new digital age that we're stepping into. So we're seeing all these changes I guess, with COVID, we're seeing changes in the work from home scenario. We're seeing changes with American living, Canadian living, people wanting maybe to reevaluate the way they live in the city, maybe moving out to the country, right? So we're having all these sort of changes, and it's pretty neat to experience it and be right in it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you say that because for the longest time I was a diehard Toronto fan. I just loved Toronto, everything Toronto, and that's really all I knew. And it wasn't, no particular reason. I just really loved the city. I visited other cities around the world, and people would ask me, it's like, "What's your favorite city?" It's like, "Oh, I love Toronto." But that was when I was younger. And I didn't mind commuting on foot. I didn't mind commuting, taking public transit or the bus, or even riding my bike from place to place. But then, sort of as I got older, I started to appreciate the lack of traffic that I have to sit in. And it's like, oh, okay, this is nice. This is nice. I don't have to sit in my car for 3-4 hours a day, going both ways. And so when I first moved out to Kitchener, people were asking me, "Hey, Gary, how is it?" And I would tell them, "You know what? It's nice. It's really nice." And they'd say, "I hear it's boring." It's like, yeah, but I would call it relaxing. What you consider boring, I call it relaxing, just because the drives aren't stressful. And so COVID, what it's done, it's sort of shifted the what shifted what's valuable for people, shifted their mindset, and shifted what they deemed valuable. It's like, I deemed the busy city valuable because it had all these different foods. But with COVID, it's like, you know what? Now I don't have to be a part of the hustle and bustle. Now I can wake up and just go to work, just go maybe into the next room, which is my office, and open my laptop, and don't really have to get dressed. If you're lucky enough where you don't have to have Zoom conferences all day, you don't really have to get dressed and do much. But you've also gained a lot of your time back. And the impact that that's having on development is, as you already know, people have to accommodate for people working from home, where, instead of having a walk-in closet that's X square feet, maybe a little portion of this might be the walk-in closet, but the other portion of it might be the office, the home office that people have to work out of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, even to take it a step further, kind of getting out of, I say this because I live in the city, right? But a lot of people, young and old, are electing to move out of the city life. So it's kind of like, if you have X amount of money that, could get you a decent place in the city, but a really nice place in a rural area, some people find it better, maybe buy a few acres. You could, build a home, you could have high-speed Wi-Fi. Maybe instead of fighting traffic to get to the gym and fighting with other people to take turns for machines, you could have your own home gym in your garage, right? And you work from home, and that's the new reality.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, maybe yours is in your garage because you guys have nice weather all the time. I would probably freeze 5 minutes into my workout. But no, it's true, man. I canceled my membership about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I haven't needed it throughout COVID, and I've still, I have a home gym. I'm fortunate enough to have a home gym, but yeah, no, it's definitely shifted people's needs when it comes to real estate. And yeah, I feel like, not feel like, but I definitely know that the developers are going to do it right and execute correctly, for people's accommodation to work from home, live at home, spend maybe 95% of the time from home, are the ones that are definitely going to make it, and they're going to see more success than the latter.
Definitely, Gary.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, it's been a pleasure having you on, my friend. Always nice talking with you. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Aaron Trevino. You can find me on Instagram. So it's Aaron, Aaron P Trevino, Trevino. You can find me on Facebook, Aaron Trevino. Find me on LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube channel. So we're about to hit 100 podcast guests this Friday. I'm pretty excited about that.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Good. Thank you so much, Gary. I appreciate the kind words. But yeah, if you're looking for, some great content, just like Gary puts out as well, definitely check out our YouTube channel, and I'd be happy to help out where I can.
Awesome. We'll definitely include that in our show notes. Again, Aaron, It was an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks a lot, Gary.